How's it, everyone? Welcome to WildStorm Studios. My name is Richard. Today we have a bumper show for you with our first in a new monthly ongoing series, The Best Of, covering the last month's favorites, everything from the best on the Discord, YouTube videos, best paint jobs from the top artists, and news from the South African painting community. So let's not waste any time and jump straight to it. So let's get started with our top YouTube video picks for the month of November. Now, as usual, there has been a massive amount of content generated on YouTube, which is fantastic for miniature painters. But at the end of the day, it's always good to focus on good quality, informative content that helps you improve as a miniature painter. So our first choice is from the Cult of Paint channel, Andy Wardle, showing us how to paint fur on an upcoming Deerguard miniature from their Kickstarter campaign. Fantastic video. In this one we see that he applies his airbrush undercoats and introduces his lights using the airbrush, and then furthermore enhancing the texture of the wolf's fur by actually freehanding the fur texture, especially along the back, building up the lights eventually. And he said that this took him approximately 3 evenings. So don't be deluded into thinking that this is a fast paint job. We watch him currently doing adjustments to the highlights, and I love how he says that this is all very relaxing and enjoyable, and I'm sure some of you would probably debate that. Next up, we have Miniac with a video on the new sort of trend when it comes to applying blending using an airbrush. This is a fantastic new technique that seems to be picking up a lot of interest and a lot of trend within the community. And the one thing I've always given Miniac credit for is the fact that he is very thorough in his explanations of how he approaches certain techniques and what he's learnt from some of the masters. And in this particular video, once again, weirdly enough, he's covering a Deerguard figure from the Cult of Paint Kickstarter. You'll see how he starts applying initial colors and introducing contrasts and shades, and then moving on to sketching his highlights with a very, very good explanation halfway through the video, and wraps it all up with blending the horns and even using an airbrush to do that work. A fantastic video for intermediates and those with an airbrush and want to know how to properly utilize an airbrush. Lastly, we have another video from Cult of Paint. These guys have just been on fire in the month of November, which is understandable, of course, because of their Kickstarter campaign. In this particular one, this is a speed paint by Andy Wardle, once again, with a bust from the Deerguard range. And you'll see how he starts applying zenithal highlights with his airbrush, moving on to applying the base coats and foundations of the model, and we watch him then sketching in the volumes and eventually expanding the stark highlights, only to then glaze everything through and create a smooth blend using the airbrush. And right towards the end, he then introduces his OSL effect using an airbrush as well. All in all three fantastic videos that really help enhance your skills, especially if you're a passionate painter who wants to add more techniques to his toolbox. In our second feature, we have a selection of my personal favorites found on the YouTube channels. These are generally ones that I feel are not always ideally targeted for miniature painters, but tend to provide a fantastic resource of techniques, inspiration, and approaching projects in different processes. So first off, we start off with one of my favorite channels that I enjoy watching every month, Laser Creation World. And this one is a bumper video, spanning about 30 minutes, but we see him construct an entire diorama scene that involves a realistic waterfall, a helicopter picking up what seems to be a cargo of wood, and just a fantastic scene all round. We see him actually provide you some excellent tips and advice on how to actually create rock molds, eventually moving on to forming the base of the diorama and all the rock walls that have been generated using those rock molds. We see him even start with a massive amount of terrain, and this is one of the fantastic things I love about his work, is that he shows you the absolute essential need to have a massive variety in your foliage in order to really expand your terrain skills and have them come out looking ultra realistic. We also watch him do a very, very unique approach in creating waterfalls using plastic film, which I think was just a groundbreaking technique. And then we see him move on to adding narrative, something I've always been a huge component of, or a huge supporter of. And in this particular case, there's no shortage of narrative as we see him build up the scene, adding little pieces of wood debris from the wood cutting, and it's just fantastic to watch him create this wonderful scene. We move over to seeing him work with pouring resin, which I know is something that is always appealing to most miniature painters. We'd love to introduce that water effect. So here we pick up some fantastic tips and pieces of advice, and we then see him enhance the waterfall with all those little techniques of introducing gel mediums and white water highlights. And eventually we also watch him create trees from scratch. So a fantastic tutorial and a fantastic diorama. I absolutely endorse watching Laser Creation World when you want some inspiration, some ideas, but more importantly, techniques. Our second video of my personal favorite selection comes from Sideshow Collectibles. Now, Sideshow Collectibles are famous worldwide for producing large-scale figures and busts, but one of the fantastic things about these figures is, of course, learning how they are painted. And in this particular one, we have one of our current favorites, the Mandalorian. This is a fantastic video that spans across covering how to paint different types of leather in a large scale. And this is why this video was so appealing to me, because I know that 3D printing is a current massive trend, and a lot of you are printing out your own figures. And of course, this might provide you some insight on how to paint those larger scale figures more effectively. So we watch him work with different types of leather effects, creating weathering and scratches and sort of that real ultra realistic leather look. We see work on the suit itself, and then we see the fantastic work on producing that ultra realistic metallic finish to the Mandalorian's armor. And if that's not enough, he wraps up the video in his approach on painting the child and how we produce those textures on the skin and within his ears, which is a fantastic video, and I always enjoy watching these little paint videos from Sideshow Collectibles. The last video would then be Trent Dennison with his non-metallic metal gold technique on a Kingdom Death figure. This is a fantastic video as you watch Trent do his trademark speed painting technique and provides an almost display standard figure in, I think it's approximately 2 to 3 hours, which is mind-blowing and frustrating at the same time. But a fantastic video, not only in the fact that you watch his technique, but you learn from his approach to not being so absolutely perfect. This does take, of course, experience and some time, but a valuable video nonetheless. So I hope you enjoy my personal selection of these 3 videos, and I hope that they add furthermore to your toolbox. All right, the next chapter in our little bumper show for you is my top 3 of the painting community and everything that's been posted up on the interwebs. Now, of course, there are a massive amount of paint jobs being released out there these days. I think with the pandemic and everyone being locked up at home, it only suits us miniature painters even more so. But after some deliberation and much sweat in trying to choose my top 3 in the painting community, these are my selections. And we start off with the absolute master of understanding lights and shadows, Arno Lazzaro, with his fantastic The Morning, which is just a wonderful piece in appreciating the true understanding of a light source. And I think what is fantastic to know about this one is that you have a wonderful amount of texture, but the color palette seems to balance fantastically with each other, and the light source still becomes a predominant focal point on the miniature, and just one of my favorite pieces of the month of November. Second up, we have the fantastically named Trudvang Goblin, painted by, once again, one of the masters, Albert Morato font. A fantastic piece, not only because of the wonderful techniques involved and the wonderful color palette, which just seems to have this beautiful cool tone running throughout the piece, and every color seems to be balanced with each other. But what is phenomenal to see is his absolute mastery of the flesh techniques. You take a closer look at the work on the toes and the work on the nose. It's just fantastic work and leaves me with a sense of absolute amazement and absolute frustration, because I'd love to be able to match that kind of skill. So fantastic work, and a definite winner of my top 3 in the painting community for the month of November. And first and foremost, without question, comes The Captive from the ever-present Mark Maskelyns. This piece takes my breath away in the sense that he has managed to balance light and shadow with a very selective, cool color tone, using greens, yellows, and earthy tones to provide a very well-balanced scene. The work is phenomenal, and what I love about the fact that each individual character, both the pirate and the mermaid, have 2 separate color tones, but they both work so well together that the scene is more unified and has a very, very wonderful aesthetic to it. And it's just a wonderful celebration of color theory and techniques, and an absolute winner, and in my personal opinion, my favorite for the month of November in the miniature painting world. And then, as an honorable mention, we have a really joyful piece here. This one is called The Second to Last Light. It's done by Patrick Hertig, I think it is, and it's actually a little sort of, I think it was actually an entry into the Roman Laput's current little painting contest, using the small spaceman from Mr. Lee's Minis. And I think this is just a wonderful idea where he's taken a bit of an ode to Roman Laput's original The Last Light, which was a fantastic piece, and I think one of Roman Laput's best diorama pieces ever to date. And I just thought this was just such a wonderful take on that original piece and turning it into this fun and enjoyable tongue-in-cheek. And yeah, it's nice to see artists take respect out of other artists' work and be inspired and come up with lovely, joyful miniature projects. So this one definitely wins my honorable mention, just for the sheer fun of it and the fact that it pays homage to Roman Laput. All right, next up we have my personal selection of the favorite entries submitted on the WildStorm Studios Discord. And what we've decided to do is split these up into 2 categories. So the first category is with regards to terrain. And although there have been some fantastic pieces, there were 2 that just jumped out at me this month. And the first one being Michael with his fantastic, I'm not sure if this was a Warhammer piece. My gaming knowledge is very limited, as you guys all know. I'm a painter first and foremost. But I just loved the wonderful amount of work that must have been put into creating this scenery piece. Fantastic use of colors. I love how he's used these highly saturated colors that really stand out, but they still work and still fit within the realm of the scenic piece. And I think it's just a wonderful color selection on this piece, and an excellent job, Michael, all around. The second one goes to Julio with his absolute fantastic, and this is of course my favorite for the month, his fantastic science fiction themed, almost like a Space Hulk base. I think it's used for a game called Nemesis, but I do stand corrected once again. But yeah, I know the amount of work that goes into creating a large scenic piece like this. So absolute fantastic work, Julio, my brother from another mother. Portuguese little inside joke there for you guys. But yeah, fantastic work from both of you guys, and I look forward to seeing more terrain pieces on the Discord. Now we come to my favorite choices from the painted works on the Discord, and let's get started right away with our very first guest on our live stream and a long-term friend and supporter of WildStorm Studios, Mr. Warren. Warren has submitted this fantastic earth non-metallic metal finish on this Marvel Crisis Protocol figure, and it's just an absolute masterwork. Well done, Warren. Love the work. Love how it's actually coming across as a truly reflective surface, and it takes a certain amount of skill and an understanding of the technical essence of light in order to pull this technique off, and I just think you did a fantastic job. Second up comes, once again, my brother from another mother, the Portuguese mafia, taking over the Discord, Julio. Just a fantastic piece with this jester. What I love is how the colors are not only saturated, but they work so well together. And I know the amount of work that goes into something like this, and it's just a truly fantastic paint job. Keep it up. Fantastico, senor. And then, of course, we come up to my favorite entry of the month, and this one is Skull from Hanru. Hanru has been an up-and-coming painter, and what I love about this particular piece is that he took such joy in understanding the volumes and understanding this large piece, which I understand was one of his very first, and I think he's done an absolute fantastic job. So kudos to Hanru. It takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of commitment to finish something like this, and I think you've done an absolute fantastic job. The color palette works fantastically. Love the work on the weathering on the blade especially, which stands out to me, and then the attention to details and a little special nod to those sausages on his backpack. I think those were just fantastically done, and for me this just adds more confidence in my belief that there are some truly talented miniature painters out there, and the Discord is meant to be your home to start to grow and share your skill and share your love for the miniature painting community. So I look forward to seeing more from all three of these artists, and thank you to everyone else who has been contributing. A little special mention, by the way, to Duran, who came first in a miniature painting contest, online contest in the month of November. And that was just wonderful work to see him absolutely, in my opinion, smash the competition. So yeah, huge shout out to Duran for the miniature painting competition side of things, and a huge shout out to Warren, Julio, Hanru. Keep painting up a storm. Love the works. Love everyone else's submissions. Let's keep this growing, and let's keep painting as many miniatures as we can. Let's take a look at some of the news and some of the happenings within the miniature painting community, and especially those that have a direct impact on the South African miniature painting community. And boy, was the month of November a doozy. Not only, of course, did we have the launch of the WildStorm Studios Patreon and Discord, which has been fantastically received, and I am just absolutely honored by the fantastic response we've gotten back from the community. Your support, your input is absolutely appreciated, and I won't for one second be in denial with regards to the opportunity that you guys have given me and WildStorm Studios to continue to grow and expand the wonderful community that we have in Southern Africa. And in having said that, the second largest bit of news from the month of November is, of course, the release of the Paint and Plastic full final trailer by Tin Toy Productions. Shout out to Duran. This was just a fantastic video to see released, but more so how the community stepped up, shared the hell out of this trailer, got it across Europe, got it as far as the US, and to have people like Miniac make mention of it in his Trapped Under Plastic podcast was a little mind-blowing and surreal to actually see these American guys talking about South African miniature painters and the upcoming documentary. We'll play a clip of that little entry for you at the end of this voice clip, but just a fantastic experience to see these guys talking about our little budding community. And in that same vein, to then have someone like Roman Lepat drop the bombshell on Instagram about the painting documentary and how he just gets the philosophy and starts it off with everything melts away was just surreal, mind-blowing, speechless, all of the above. And we saw that view count on the YouTube video for the Paint and Plastic documentary jumped from about 400 views, I think it was at one stage, to almost 1,700 views in less than a few days. And that is just fantastic. And I cannot wait to see the impact this will have on the 18th of December when the full documentary is released. We still hope to have some confirmation with Duran and Tintoy if we can have a small watch party for that documentary on the 18th or possibly the night before, but we will confirm for you guys. I am truly excited to not only be a part of the documentary, but truly excited to have this documentary put us on the map and get more and more people overseas to notice that we are a budding community of miniature painters out here, just as passionate and just as enthralled by the miniature painting community as anyone else overseas. And I, for one, am excited and really, really proud of what was achieved for the miniature painting community over the last month. And it was that banding together of everyone sharing the video and reaching out to all these big names and trying to get people to notice this humble little documentary that Tintoy's productions have just done a masterful job with. And I think the trailer speaks for itself. So truly exciting stuff. We also had the announcement of the first WildStorm Studios Discord miniature painting competition, Stormy SA. So I hope all of you are busy, hard at work in building your bases and building your competition pieces. We have sponsors from Big Child Creatives. We also have a sponsor of a Raging Heroes miniature, as well as a D&D, Knowles Miniatures, I think that is. But we will confirm the actual prizes closer to the date. We will also have a guest judge judging those entries alongside with me, and just to alleviate some of the stress on my side to choose a winner. So I hope you guys are all looking forward to that. Don't forget, your deadline is the 18th of December. You will have to provide a small narrative or a small description as to what it is that you are trying to achieve. And I look forward to all your entries. And I, for one, am excited. And we have purposefully timed that in with the premiere of the documentary. So we hope that we might be able to have a bumper show that night of watching the documentary, as well as announcing our winners. So let's look forward to that and keep that calendar day open moving into December. Otherwise, we have the Black Friday specials that were released today. We also have incoming the Big Child Creatives parcel shipment that hopefully will land within the next week. We are only waiting with bated breath here at WildStorm Studios, and I cannot wait to get these figures up on the shelf and available for you guys soonest. So I hope that you guys have had a wonderful experience over the month of November. I, for one, have just been absolutely left speechless by the wonderful support, the wonderful patronage by the Patreons. We've even conducted some of our private one-on-one private lessons with the tier 3 members, which has been a raging success so far, and I hope that the guys are really and truly enjoying that one-on-one engagement with me. And it's been a fantastic experience thus far. So from me to you, a huge thank you, especially to the Patreons. You know, all of your support has been absolutely wonderful, and I'll say it before and I've said it again, that it is your support that helps keep the lights on and keep WildStorm Studios ticking forward. And I have lots of delusions of grandeur that I'd like to take WildStorm Studios, and it's only with your support that I can achieve that. So a huge, massive thank you. And I wish all of you a fantastic holiday season as we move into December. This should be an opportunity for you to now, of course, with the holiday season coming up, to be able to wrap up your Christmas wish lists on the WildStorm Studios and get those out to family and friends. Get them to be able to actually buy the miniatures and the figures that you really want, as opposed to getting duplicate gifts like I once did. And to this day it still makes me smile, and that's why I wanted to insist on the wish list being available on the WildStorm Studios. So make sure you get your wish list sorted out and sent out to your family and friends. Make sure that you are moving along and monitoring that deadline for your competition entries for Stormy SA. Otherwise, keep active on the Discord, keep painting, and as always, paint up a storm. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.